This week I have reached a new low when it comes to expectations for Battlefield 5. As someone who plays, or at least used to play, quite a lot of Battlefield, I'm always optimistic and excited for upcoming content, and then usually quite annoyed if things go wrong and the game is worse than expected. We all know Battlefield 5 has been a rollercoaster from the very start, but at this stage I would have thought that some major decisions and planning would have been made to kind of turn this ship around and start to improve the experience. That hasn't been the case though, and interestingly, a few reasons as to why certain decisions can't be made have recently surfaced on some of the usual social media channels. In a recent post on Reddit from the community manager Jeff Braddock, a few key pieces of information were revealed. These pieces of info came along with a post that was not well received at all by the community, as is often the case with these community broadcasts and weekly debriefs and things like that, and you also get a lot of copy and pasted messages that I've seen in pretty much every weekly post for around a year. That being said, I'll still read through these posts to grab the bits of useful information and material that you guys will want to hear about. I'll break it down into around 7 points, and they'll focus on things that are preventing DICE from updating Battlefield 5. Firstly, double XP. Why is there no double XP in Battlefield 5 whilst we have it in all the other Battlefield games? Restrictions on movement due to COVID-19 is forcing many of us to stay completely isolated indoors, which in my opinion is the perfect time to play video games. DICE have also realised this, to some extent, by adding an extended double XP event to their Battlefield games. However, Battlefield 5 is not on the list. Why, you might ask? Well, apparently, DICE cannot enable the double XP due to limitations with the tech, whatever that means. Is this because the game has been coded in such a way that the XP cannot be altered? Or is this because the XP is directly related to the tides of war and they don't want people to fly through it really quickly? I'm not sure, but as you can purchase a tier booster with real life money, I think it might be related to that. Maybe they can't separate the two due to the way the game's been coded, and it's very difficult to isolate what sort of XP they want players to receive and when they can receive it. Point 2. Servers in the Middle East and South Africa have been disabled, routing all traffic to the EU. This was apparently done because the majority of traffic from the Middle East already connected to EU servers anyway, so why bother keeping the local ones? Again, in an FPS game from a AAA studio, I'd expect servers to be located in various spots around the globe to ensure players can experience a proper game of Battlefield with under 120 ping. Anything over there, and I think it starts to get quite difficult to enjoy an FPS game. That being said, I guess the player numbers are quite low on Battlefield 5, so why keep those servers running, especially if people aren't using them? I know for a fact that some players are using their local servers. Maybe they're doing it through community events, or they're going through servers in the server browser and not matchmaking, and that could be how DICE have come up with these statistics. That being said, all in all, it really does suck for those dedicated fans in those affected areas. Now they have to endure a massive ping to play Battlefield and also annoy the other gamers on EU servers with low ping, because now you have a lot of different pings on the server performance is worse, people are lagging about, as we've seen in the past. 100 ping is playable, but it's not ideal. As I said, this is a AAA FPS game, not some thrown together amateur hour, although it often feels that way. Point number 3. I've been complaining about this one for a long time. In fact, I think I first started complaining about it during the first few weeks of the game's life because it really baffled me as to why it was happening. Limited time modes. Limited time modes are awful. Removing popular modes is a terrible idea, and butchering classic modes like Rush in order to accommodate the failure that has been Grand Operations is quite infuriating to see. Personally, I just thought it was someone at DICE thinking they knew what the community wanted, when in fact they probably didn't play much Battlefield themselves and didn't really understand the community aspect involved. Maybe they were being led by stats and trying to hit certain targets by changing up what we already had. That might not be the case though. As you may have heard in a reply from Braddock, the community manager, he outlined why modes are not being included. I'll read you the question and then I'll give you his reply. You can also see it on screen now in the background. The question: I personally think a good solution would be to add Outpost, Grind, Rush and Frontlines to the game for the remainder of Chapter 6. That won't take any effort from developers but will keep players happy and content will feel fresh. Is this possible? The answer from Braddock. You're going to hate the answer, and I'm sorry, the UI is limited by the number of playlists that can be in the UI. Therefore, if we added those 4 modes, we'd have to remove 4 things, and honestly, the team isn't moving in that direction. So, not exactly the answer you wanted to hear. Firstly, what on earth is going on over there at DICE? They physically cannot add more modes to the game. I don't know how to code personally, I'm not in that area of work, however I'm sure somebody watching this video might be, so could let me know what's preventing them from doing this. It seems ridiculous considering in previous Battlefield games we've had plenty of modes, some added with DLCs and others just there for the entire life or from the very beginning of the game's life. In Battlefield 4 we had tons of modes and that thing was made in 2013. In Braddock's defence, he is just the messenger delivering very underwhelming news to an angry mob, and as usual, he is going that extra mile to explain what his personal opinion is. He wants all the modes in the game, he wants double XP, and there just isn't any possibility. He has his hands tied really with what he can say, but also maybe DICE can't actually implement double XP and more modes to the game, which really does suck. Point number 4. Recently DICE have hinted at a few soldier uniform tweaks coming to the game. It's a well-known fact that from a historical point of view, Battlefield 5 isn't great. The Second World War is a well-known period of time with many knowledgeable fans ready to critique the integrity and authenticity of the assets being used. Whilst I'm more interested in the gameplay, I can completely understand why many get annoyed with the historical accuracy of the game. It's a World War II game, it's a very sensitive time period. That being said, I'm not going to expect anything spectacular from this change that DICE have proposed. My guess is a few of the British uniforms will turn a slightly different shade of brown, and until DICE really do a lot more, I can't imagine the uniforms are going to be that much better. DICE also have failed to lock elites to their factions, so it doesn't matter what you do to the uniforms, you're still going to have a German elite soldier running alongside the Japanese troops, which isn't great. And maybe they could even consider adding a few additional realistic uniforms purchasable with company coins. In that way you're appeasing that audience that really want more historical and accurate content in the game. I'll always personally view Battlefield 5 as an alternate history game with no real intent on being accurate whatsoever, but as DICE did kinda say it was going to be, World War II as you've never seen it before with unseen battles, they didn't really say it was going to be some steampunk World War II game, so I'll always kind of view it as a failure in that aspect. Point number 5, community servers. I bet DICE are kicking themselves right now. All the best Battlefield games in the past had community-run servers linked to the Battlelog social media platform, or proper communities based on Reddit and other social medias. There were big groups on Facebook, Twitter, obviously on Battlelog, Reddit, you had tons of them. With Battlefield 5, DICE were determined to strip that away to ensure they had complete control of the content we played, and that started back in Battlefield 1 with the removal of Battlelog, although we did still have custom servers on release. What they actually did though was kill off any remaining core communities from the Battlefield 3 and 4 days, a few of which I was a part of. They're completely gone now for the most part. Most of the Battlefield 1 communities that had spent the past few years growing quite rapidly have really moved away as well to other games, or are just sitting there waiting for the next Battlefield game. And finally, they've removed any chance of a steady player count in times when new content wasn't being dropped. That is why custom servers are so important. If you don't have new content, people can adapt the game and make new interesting content for themselves. They haven't done that, even though we do have community servers now. They're still lackluster, they still don't work properly, and it's just a real missed opportunity. Talking of missed opportunities, let's get on to point 6. In this one, I'm going to take a look at what DICE can do to Battlefield 5 to bring some new content to the game without actually bringing a lot of new content. So being clever with what they have in order to improve the experience. A few things really that on the surface look quite easy to do, maybe they're more complicated further down, but I think this is what they could do. Firestorm. It has to be free to play if they want to get anything from that experience. No one plays it. It's really not in any situation going to be something I'd view as a success. Make it free to play, maybe add 1 or 2 updates if you have time in the coming 6 to 12 months and see what happens with it. Do what has to be done, make it free to play. Vehicle superiority, we've seen it in previous Battlefield games in DLCs, we saw it in China Rising for Battlefield 4 and then it came in Battlefield 1 with that London's Calling map. Have some vehicle superiority in the air and then tank superiority maybe on the ground. It's been in Battlefield for years, maybe they don't have the tech in Battlefield 5 to do it, that wouldn't surprise me, but why not put it into the game? Now, I know I said you couldn't have new modes in the game such as grind, frontlines and all of these being included because they are limited really with what they can have, but surely they could have an option in the community servers to offer new modes like back to basics, historically accurate modes, things that might retain and please certain aspects of the audience. Not everybody wants that, but some people do, so you have to offer those modes. And finally, how about new playlists? Infantry only, vehicle focused. We've seen snippets of this before, but I want a more permanent solution with the content that everybody enjoys being permanently available on the front page of Battlefield. And finally, as we get towards the end of this video, it's point 7. What can we learn from this? I was recently sent a message from a member of the community a few days ago who goes by the name of the Tagwa, and whilst I don't totally agree with every single one of their points, it does make some sense. Maybe you could leave a similar list or comment on this down below. They had the following to say. What do we want from the next Battlefield? Well, from my experience of playing Battlefield for a long time, I guess this is what most people want. Famous vehicles. Jets such as the F-15 and F-16, the Su-30, the A-10. Enjoyable modes such as Gunmaster, Squad Deathmatch, Air Superiority, Capture the Flag, and of course, Hardcore. Rental and customizable servers, premium, cross-platform options, much more options of customizing guns and attachments, battle log, official tournaments or competitive cups, and potentially a free and supported Battle Royale game, in a similar way to what Call of Duty have been doing. As I said, I don't agree with all of that stuff, but most of it makes perfect sense. Essentially, large parts of the community want Battlefield 3. That's what they want. Maybe not the same setting exactly, but everything that that game had, and maybe a few things from Battlefield 4. They want iconic combat set in a modern, maybe slightly futuristic setting. They want customization. That's what Battlefield has in abundance. Customization of weapons, vehicles, servers. They're sick of this dumbed down, broken mess that we've had in Battlefield 5, and it's time for it to change, so hopefully DICE will do that with the next game. Thanks for watching this video. Remember, you can leave your comments down below. I'm especially interested to see or to hear what you have to say about these reasons for why we're not getting double XP, we're not getting the updated modes and things like that. It's a really unusual situation we're in, especially at a time where DICE could be capitalising on everybody staying at home playing video games, when in fact I think they're not, and a lot of people are moving away from Battlefield to other games like Call of Duty. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.